Sup, freaks? It's your boy Marty here to introduce this rip of TFTC. Thank you for joining us. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. If you catch us on podcast apps, make sure you subscribe there. Give us a rating, a review. Go to tftc.io as well. Become a member of the site. Join the conversation. Truth for the commoner, trying to get you the high signal content in a world gone mad. This rip was brought to you by our good friends at River. River's here to make it as easy as possible for you to buy Bitcoin and then take it into self-custody. Go to river.com/TFTC, set up an account today, and you'll get $5 of Bitcoin after you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin on River. You can dollar cost average into Bitcoin with no fees. If you're just buying one off, River has the best fees in the industry. They back all their Bitcoin reserves 1-to-1 in multi-sig cold storage. They highly recommend that you take self-custody. They just introduced limits. So if you want to set a limit order below or above the current Bitcoin price, River makes that extremely easy as well. They also have real customer support. You can pick up the phone and call them if you have any questions about your experience on River. So go to river.com/TFTC, set up an account today. Enjoy this rip. International man of mystery, king of hardware, NVK, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for the intro. That was funny.
You've got way more hardware behind you than you did last time you were on the show.
Yeah, no, I need to organize the back wall here. It's starting to, and I took some stuff off. It's starting to look a little bit cluttery, orderly.
I mean, as somebody who hoards Coinkite hardware, I understand.
It's hard, man. You know, you make things, and especially like in between prototypes and things, like you want to keep them. But then, you know, we only ship like 5% of the stuff we come up with, right? So like the shop is like really full of stuff. It's bad.
Well, you need to keep one of each for posterity, for a museum.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the one thing. That was the one cool thing when I went and interviewed Jack at Square's offices in San Francisco. Jesus, 5-6 years ago now at this point. They had a wall of the iterations of their hardware, the Square point of sale system, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, no, they have a good team there. They still don't understand screens, but they have a good team there.
I mean, I don't want to dox conversations, but we had Nick from BitKey. He was at the takeover last week, and Matt and I were talking to him about the BitKey. That was the big point of contention. Obviously, Matt was like, "Where's the screen? Why do we need a screen on these devices?"
You know, you have to check the transaction, right? No, I mean, I've talked to Jack enough about this, like given him enough grief about it. It's they're going after a different market. Like their market is not Bitcoiners. Their market is like new people. You know, like the normies out there that want to sort of like, you know, get a device that they just sort of touch their phone with and then they put it away. And then, you know, they have this sort of quasi-custodial experience.
What are the trade-offs? Because we talked about this on Rabbit Hole Recap last week. Obviously, BitKey went on sale last week or the week before, so we had to cover it on Rabbit Hole Recap. I think we've discussed this before. I think the last time you were here in person, if anything, it's just really cool to see the design landscape of self-custody Bitcoin expand.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. Like, I want to see different stuff, right? Like, I don't want to see just more of the same stuff. You know, we made the first one that had like lots of buttons and like different secure elements and like a bunch of like different stuff. And then, you know, and then we started seeing just a bunch of more of the same. And then finally we're starting to see things that are trying to do different things in different ways so that we have more options, right? You know, you have, you know, that little Frost device that one attaches to the other. You have the Alexis one where they're trying to power the phone NFC and sort of like doing their own thing. It's cool. It's cool. And BitKey doing their own sort of like different experience as well. Like that's what we need, because if we don't explore different ways of doing self-custody with hardware, then we don't get anywhere.
Oh, with that in mind, where are we right now? Are you happy with where we are from a Bitcoin
I'm
hardware
pretty happy,
perspective?
man. Like, you know, it's quite remarkable that with $150 of a cold card, you can be more secure with your, you know, generational wealth than like a bank. Like, it's insane when you think about it. I mean, you know, like we're building a device for 150 bucks that like could beat most state actors, right? Like, it's quite a feat. Um, and and the device respects all the Bitcoin sort of like uh, um, the Bitcoin sort of direction, right? Which is you have this thing that uses a primitive that you can just like transport to a alternative device and still works, right? So you're not captured to our company, you're not captured to our brand. If we disappear tomorrow, you'll continue on, right? That's winning. I think like in general in Bitcoin we're doing very well on how things are.
I would agree. And just to note, your mic switched again. So if you want to toggle that, while you toggle that, I will say, I mean, we were chatting last week. I've been testing out the Q, which I think is an incredible device for many reasons. You have a full keyboard. The battery pack, I think, is the biggest upgrade for me personally as a user, like not having to be 6 feet away from a wall to generate private public key pairs. And then the NFC aspect of it as well, like being able to pair it with a nunchuck watch only wallet, or just use nunchuck as a vehicle to spend from it with NFC. I think it's an incredible user experience. NFC is something I think we need to lean more into because it's just a way better experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the QNFC is awesome. You know, we've learned a few lessons from the Mark IV, and we've sourced a super high quality antenna, and sort of placed it well. And like, you know, to do an FC right, there's like a bunch of like little sort of moving parts, and I think it's quite good on the Q. And I mean, like the NFC experience is really awesome for phone first people. I think it's a much better sort of direction than QR codes are. And I think we're going to see more of that. There is like, I think 2 or 3 NFC devices in the market. More coming. And it's a lot cheaper too to make, right? So like, you know, we added a camera to the Q, that adds cost to the BOM, right? It's a very good QR scanner on the Q. It does the job better than any other hardware wallet, but I still don't think it's the best direction for Bitcoin self-custody in terms of like economics of devices and user experience. But you know, like we are the companies in the building up, and we're going to be the companies in the transition, right, towards like something else that's going to be much better. And you can't skip that part, right? Do you remember with like smartphones where like, so first it was just phones, right? We had like a million devices of options for flip phones and or the bar soap phones. And then you had like a million options for smartphones, right? And they all had different designs and all kinds of things, and we had to experiment. And then Apple invented the touch display of capacitance that actually works, right? And then everything became exactly what an iPhone is, right? But it took like 20 years to get there. You can say 30, 40, depending on where you want to start, but you know, at least 20 years of experimenting and improving on the smartphone to get somewhere. So, you know, that happened to modems, that happened to computers, that happened to everything. You need to work that process through, because we have something that is fairly new, right? Like custodying Bitcoin is such a new thing.
It's such a new thing, but it's coming out of favor. We have the ETFs now. We don't need to custody our Bitcoin anymore. ETFs are here. Why do you even run your company anymore? We don't need it.
Right. I mean, like the ETFs are great. You know, I really don't have a problem with it. I legit think it's fantastic. I mean, any way in which we take all the economic value from the traditional sort of from the cantillionaires the best, right? So if the ETF is how we get some of that, fantastic. But here's the thing, right? I mean, if most of the Bitcoin is not outside capturable instruments, you know, the Bitcoin in the Bitcoin ETF could go to zero. So you know, govern yourself accordingly. I think it's great to have ETFs. I think it's fantastic that we have all these products that can be financialized and people can go gamble in Wall Street with. But you know, self-custody is still how, you know, Bitcoin remains uncapturable. So I think people get it. You know, I think it's so far, I mean, what is it, like 90% of all the Bitcoin is outside of the financial system. So, you know, it's working.
Do you worry that people will get complacent?
I don't have worries, man. I don't have worries.
That's good. I just need to.
I really don't. Like, it's the incentives are like really good to push people in these different directions, right? Like, you know, maybe Russia ends up with like a huge pile of Bitcoin and they're not going to put an American ETF, right? Like, you know, so you have the flag theory stuff, you have the selfish actor incentives, you know, like it's all there. So it's very hard for me to be worried about like things sort of like going in this sort of like dark directions.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm under the impression that most things are good for Bitcoin. The one thing that has been annoying for me personally is this idea that self-custody is impossible, or it's just a barrier too high for most people. And something we've talked a lot about on this show and on Rabbit Hole Recap in years past. It's like, it's really not that hard. Like, yes, it does take some personal responsibility to produce and then secure a 12 or 24 word private key. But I don't think it's as hard as the Gen X/boomers telling people just buy the ETF, don't self-custody your Bitcoin.
I mean, you know, this all comes from like a completely like sort of absurd sort of reference. Like, you know, first of all, you know, anybody who's not a boomer, so like they probably don't even have a trading account to buy an ETF. Let's start from the premise, right? Like all the Gen Z and then below don't have trading accounts, right? I mean, they can maybe buy through like, you know, those apps, the Robinhoods or whatever, but they don't like them because they rugged GameStop, right? So, and then like think about it this way, like if you were to walk to a bank, right, to open a bank account, it's a pain in the ass too, right? So that requires some knowledge, right? Like applying for credit on something like requires some knowledge. It takes time. It's not immediate. And then when you want to buy your favorite thing on the internet as a younger person, you are not allowed to. So I think when people just go and they buy a Coldcard and they take 5 minutes to just like press the buttons and follow the very basic steps, right? It's very possible for them to do it. And you know what, if they don't want to put it in steel to start, well, they just put it on the encrypted microSD card and, you know, put it somewhere else to start, right? Is that like terrible? Yes, but that is like not as bad as like having coins that you don't own. So yeah, you know, put on steel, but start somewhere.
Yeah. But I heard you can get SIM swapped if you hold it on a Coldcard.
Yeah, I mean, you know, every cycle we have the parachuted experts. There's always somebody who's going to be the new Raul Paul or something like that. Yeah, what are you going to do with those guys? I mean, they want to. I really think they're just trolling us to get more attention. Like, you can't be serious. You can't be that stupid.
No. And it's incredibly hilarious and somewhat ironic because, and you were tweeting about this morning, I mean, the attacks that can be levied on individuals holding their Bitcoin, let's just say on an exchange particularly, are pretty pronounced and only getting more pronounced throughout time. SimSwap being one of them. And I actually had a friend who got SIM swapped a couple of weeks ago. He reached out and called me after he got control of his phone number back and said thank you because I convinced him to move his Bitcoin off an exchange and into a multi-sig setup. And and with Unchained, and he was very happy that I told him to do that. And then you were tweeting about it this morning. A lot of these exchanges, particularly if you have a lot of Bitcoin on them, their security protocol dictates, hey, we need to do a video call. And now with AI, face generation technology.
I mean, this video requirement. So some of the companies is optional, right? Like you set the options. Some of them are required over a certain amount. I mean, this is terrible in so many ways. So first, you know, you are assuming that the video is the person there, right? Now we know that, like, with enough effort, somebody can probably fake that out. And if they can't quality yet, they're gonna soon. And then you as a company, say, for example, Unchained, London, Casa, whatever, are going to have a video of somebody claiming that and not being them, and you're going to get sued for the coins that got taken because the security protocol was followed. And then you are going to record that video and keep it because you want to keep it for your liability reasons, right? And then that video is going to be stolen from you. Bad guys are going to know who has Bitcoin of certain amounts and is going to go kidnap their families so they can get it too, because you're going to lose that personal information, right? I mean, it's going to happen 100%. Every company is going to get hacked. It's just a matter of time. So, you know, I think all these companies have a good-hearted intentions with this video stuff, but I think it's extremely misguided, and I think it doesn't end well. Especially if you're forcing people into doing that. I think it's so absurd. I think this is going to end up just getting litigated, and people are going to lose a lot of money, and or people are going to get kidnapped, and then there are going to be damages on top of losing all the money, and these companies are going to look really bad, and then they'll stop doing video.
Well, I hope some are more forward thinking than that. Having had conversations with some of them, I know they're thinking about it. I mean, that was literally the first question I ever asked Drew Bunsall. They came and gave a demo in New York on their multi-sig vaults the first time they launched them, 2018, 2017. No, it was like 2018, 2019, I think. And I was like the dickhead in the room, like, AI, deepfakes, they're beginning. It was like before they were even as mature as they are now, but had the intuition back then, like, you can't do video verification because these deepfakes are coming. And
I mean, it's good enough now, right? And remember, part of the video authentication stuff is so that if the person is under distress, right? So let's say you have secret words that you have to say it in video, right? Which most of these companies don't do. But let's say that they did that. You can be beaten up on the side of the computer, giving them the words, and then they use an AI model to do the video with the secret words, right? And now all checks. So it's so hopeless that way. Like, with AI now, there's really just two things that you can't fake, which is private key, public private key pairs, and proof of work, right? So, we have the top signer now is being used by a few companies where they're using a second factor authentication. It uses the Bitcoin curve, but they're using it just as a thing you have.
It's
right?
like a YubiKey.
So, kind of like a YubiKey, yes, but using the Bitcoin curve, which is more respectful, in my opinion. It's things like that, right? So UBs, tap signers, extra hardware wallets that you can do message signing. It could even be a phone call with like special like OTP, right? Since you were assuming that the voice or video is fake anyways, I mean, the medium matters less, right? So, if you still want to do a phone call, at least you're not running the risk of having your face, talking about the amount of Bitcoin you're taking out. It's safer, to have like a phone call where you're doing paper OTP. For people that don't know what OTP is a one-time password. And you essentially have like a sheet of paper that you fold in half, and then you get specific numbers. Banks used to do that for large transactions. And then you at least have this interaction over phone, so it's a second channel. You gave some pins, you gave some special words, You sign something, and then the money comes out, right? Like, wow, I mean, they do the extra signing, right? But I really think that the current setups are abhorrent, and they're just putting people at risk, especially with the leaking of the video of people talking about their Bitcoin. That's just asking for kidnap.
Do you think this moves back to Meatspace, where to move Bitcoin of larger amounts?
Why not?
Somebody in person.
I mean, like there's been a lot of Bitcoin sort of companies. I did KYC in person. I don't send any PI documents over digital manners, right? So I just flew over here, just do a photocopy of it, keep it in your office cabinet. It was kind of funny because one of them, years passed, and the new team, like, they lost the information, like they probably got shredded and then they didn't have any information on this account, and the account had no name, had nothing on the computer, it was just sort of gibberish. That was my requirement, and I had to go like again there to do the KYC again.
The lengths people will go to keep their privacy. But I think this AI stuff is making it very apparent that the need to protect your privacy is only increasing exponentially. And it's something that more people are going to have to learn about, because in the world of convenience that we've all grown up in, people don't think about it unless you're a hardcore cypherpunk like yourself who thinks like, I'm not putting my ID in this digital portal.
Yeah, let's move back to paper. Like, so for example, phone carriers in Canada, now they require that you go to an actual store with your government ID. I think 2 pieces of ID plus like some other crap and special words in order to change your SIM, so people don't get SIM swapped.
That would be a great regulation here in the United States as well. And even like with the IDs too, it feels like that whole system's getting DDoSed.
That was market demand, by the way. It was not even regulation. It's just, there is nothing like a damages lawsuit to change the way business do business, right?
Yeah. No, it's happening. We had Jeff Booth get SIM swapped recently.
Yep.
David Bailey was tweeting that a lot of people are getting SIM swapped, and the options that are on the market to prevent this, the companies that are claiming to provide a service that is unSIM swappable, seem a bit.
I mean, I think they can do your voice now with like 5 seconds of audio. It's like near perfect voice.
Yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah, no, I mean, and yeah, I mean, the podcasters, I mean, they can just, wow. I mean, what they can do with the 3 hours of 100 episodes of like Bitcoin.review. I mean, it's like brutal, right? But at least, but then there is the videos too, right? I mean, they can just get pictures and stuff. And then when you're having your call with, one of this companies, it's not as elite room. There's all ways of like lowering the quality of the image and stuff. Anyways, it's a disaster.
Yeah. So is AI a net benefit or a net positive, or a net positive or net negative in your mind?
Oh, it's an absolute net positive. Like, it's like trying to uninvent electricity or Bitcoin or whatever just because it has like, some unwanted consequences, right? For example, some people feel sorry for central banks, right? Those poor people, what are they going to do once Bitcoin wins? It's the same for AI. I mean, it's a fantastic tool. I use it a lot. Nowadays I just like, I can suck in repos into Unleashed and sort of like analyze code. I can, review documents. I can review accounting stuff. You still need to be a domain expert of the stuff you're reviewing, right? You can't depend on it because it's kind of like a 20-year-old mathematician genius who's drunk, right? That's the current iteration of AI. So you need to have your bullshit detector very high, but it is very useful. It can do correlations in a way that you can't as a human. You need a room of 100 people to do it.
Yeah, no, we've been leaning into it here at TFTC. It's extremely powerful if you know how to harness it. I mean, let's talk a little bit more about Unleashed.chat. I mean, you spun this up, and it's pretty powerful what you can do. How would you juxtapose it to other products on the market? Because it seems like you're leaning in to a lot of the open source models. And so, in your opinion, where are these models compared to?
So the thing is, like, the current state of the escape is like, say, like a public open source AI is about like 6 months behind. We'll see what OpenAI launches. But the trend is that the open stuff is becoming it's going to become better than the closed stuff, which is great. But the problem right now is to run anything interesting, you need decent infrastructure, right? And so you don't want to be melting your laptop to do very basic shit. And I was looking for some place that I could upload company financial information and legal documents and things that would actually be useful as a company to analyze and go over things. And when I read the terms of service of OpenAI, I'm like, nope, I am not uploading my shit here. And I started running locally, and locally was crap. So I started putting together this system where you can do the high quality proper infrastructure tools with your data, right? But private. So you have some privacy there. Terms of services, you own your data. And we're not going to train the models on your data. We can't even see your data. And we're going to have multiple types of models that are open for you to use. And we're going to build the tooling, right? So that you can do it. Because what a lot of people don't know is there is a lot of tooling you have to build on top of the models, so the models understand stuff. Because these models don't understand English, right? They don't understand stuff. They're just mathematical statistical models, right, of things. And you have to essentially vectorize the data and then embed the data into the model and then have the model sort of understand that thing. And then it sounds to you like it's magic, right? But all that tooling needs to be built, and all that tooling is closed. So, so we built a lot of that. And so that, for example, you could understand Nostr, right? I wanted to go and grok Twitter, but grok is closed and Nostr is closed. Grok, I think, is now open. It's shit too, but Twitter is closed, so you can't grok Twitter really outside of grok. So I'm like, hey, you know what? Nostr is open, so let's grok Nostr, and it works beautifully, right? You can walk into Unleashed.chat and say, hey, what is Lynn thinking about today, right? And the thing goes and summarizes what Lynn said today, right? And it'll be very much better insight than you get out of going on Twitter. There's a lot of that stuff that can be done, and there's a lot to do there as well. I want to see if we can improve search for Nostr as well, so that all the Nostr clients can search better. Just sort of playing around, still trying to figure out what to do. And, no KYC and SATs.
Feels like it's the future. Again,
That's one way of putting it.
I mean, we've been experimenting it more with the closed source models on our end, because the tools that we use to help us on the content side of things only leverage these closed source models. But that's one of our goals in 2024, is to transition to something like an Unleashed to do all this. And that requires us to build the tooling that you mentioned, connecting transcription services with chat services, and all of that. But there's something there. But in terms of what you're doing on, I'm really fascinated to learn more how you're applying it on the business side. You mentioned these legal documents. I'm sure you put financial statements in it. And I think that's one of the big problems many people like myself who are running companies have when trying to approach this problem. It's where do you start, and how should you be leveraging this? How can you leverage it in a way that is most efficient, will actually drive results from a business perspective?
I mean, it's going to differ for every business, right? But I think that the hardest part of a business, especially a small business, right, that doesn't have a room with 50 analysts, is trying to understand correlations in your business, right? Is the color of this product, affecting, the sales of this product under what period of time, and, things like that. And, trying to understand your sales cycles through the year, trying to understand, what your users want, Because a lot of times too, like, what users ask is not necessarily what they want. So trying to understand what people actually want. There is like reviewing, like just contracts, reviewing sales documents, like, anywhere you can find an edge. And as you play with it, you start to sort of become better at playing with it as well. So it's kind of like learning how to write or learning how to ride a bike. You start to understand how to use the tool better, because it's kind of a tool. It's not general the way that people describe. So for example, like if you go on Unleashed and you ask some like trivia questions, it's not going to do very well. Those models are not full of trivia crap like OpenAI is. They have a lot of mechanical Turking for that. But it is a super high performance, like, system for people who are like trying to do business, right? Like if you're trying to analyze some serious stuff, trying to analyze code, you know how to ask the questions, like these models are very good. It's just you gotta find your method to the madness.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's fun to experiment with it. I mean, I've seen it just on our side, on the content side of things. The amount of leverage you get for the amount of dollars that you spend is pretty insane, unfathomable. For somebody,
you look at some of this. We don't use it. Johnny does most of the audio editing for Bitcoin.review, but like River FM, they offer like AI cleanup of the audio and video stuff, and apparently it's very good. Like, I've been tempted to pressing the button, but it really depends on like the degree in which you want the editorialization of things. But it's getting there. I mean, like all the ums and ahs that I do, I'm sure an AI can take it out. It's not that hard.
No, I've seen. I know Guy Swan uses the audio AI that cuts out ums and likes. I need it. 7 years in, I'm still re-listening to podcasts. Like, God damn it, Marty, stop saying like and
That's okay. Your brain is just taking a pause to think.
Yeah.
Don't fall for the overly. Some people are just very good and very eloquent, and some people aren't. I'm not. I don't care. Deal with it. Don't listen to the pod.
Well, I mean, you have the excuse. Well, English isn't your first language, right? So.
Yeah, but I still do the same in Portuguese too. I do the same in Spanish. I do the same. It's just it's every person's brain is slightly off, right? So It's like deal with it.
But keeping on this tip, that's something I think we should dive into, because I think these tools are powerful. We're still in like the discovery phase of how to leverage them as a company, but thinking about running a company on a Bitcoin standard, I know we talk a lot about this at 1031, but it seems apparent that these tools can give you so much leverage that the whole landscape of running a company, particularly a VC-backed company, can change. This whole idea of growth at all cost, go spend as much money as possible. Hopefully you get a user base and some revenue down the line, considering where interest rates are and the maturity of these tools at your fingertips. You can make a strong argument that you'd be running a company irresponsibly if you're not leveraging these to help drive returns and revenue in your company.
Oh, absolutely, right. I mean, it's very similar to say, you don't want to use a computer. We don't like computers. You know what I mean? There is no businesses that can do that anymore. Even an artisan now needs either himself a computer or somebody else have a computer to advertise or to even like do his taxes. Like you can't. The government does not accept paper records anymore for audits, right? It has to be digital. So, I think we're gonna get to a point soon where, and I mean very soon, we're like 2-3 years out of having all your accounting done by AI, right? Like that, like all your bookkeeping done by AI. It already kind of is for small businesses. If you're a micro business, whatever, we don't like, I don't know what this audience consider a small business, but let's say a less than $1 million a year business, I guarantee you that like most of their receipts and all the bookkeeping is done by computer machine learning and some AI now. They just don't know it, but that's how QuickBooks is processing all their receipts. So it's gonna be like that, right? Like you're just gonna keep on having these exponential improvements in all these little areas of the business. So you used to have a guy that scan receipts and puts it in the right way. That's gonna disappear within like the next 2 years, but for everybody, right? And then people link their bank accounts to QuickBooks, right? You're gonna do the same. Like these things are just gonna get better and better and better, so that you need less and less human intervention on these tools. And then eventually you're gonna have a auto accountant, right? That's gonna try to optimize your tax return for yourself based on all the inputs that it has and the tax and the current tax code of your jurisdiction. I can see that happening like in the next 3 years. And that would be glorious. Having a world with no more accounting firms, man, is going to be glorious. Especially for complex shit. Oh my God. You're talking about companies running like treasuries and being Bitcoin based. I mean, like, we earn in BTC and in USD, and we have to do accounting in CAD. So like, and we have to do cap gains on every single entry of USD that is an entry of BTC. So like we're running like, what a bank would have to do in terms of accounting. We're having to do that as a small, like, as a small company. Like it's insane.
That really is. And that's only the back office applications. Like you think about it from like customer support, interacting with your client base, doing stuff like growth marketing.
It already kind of is like that. So the other day, somebody posted a picture of an airline chatbot. It was really funny. So, because you can teach, right, the AI essentially all your shit, right? Like you can upload right now on Unleashed, like your docs, and then the thing knows your docs, right? The problem is these models are designed to be, sort of general purpose, right? And gating them is very hard because that's how they are designed. So, if you bang enough on the thing, like if you ask 10 times, like, I don't know, like tell me the size of the boobs of whatever celebrity, right? Like eventually the thing is going to tell you from an airliner chatbot that's designed for support. And then the screenshot of that doesn't look that good, right? So there is a lot of, again, it's like, it's a genius mathematician 20-year-old who's drunk. So you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you prod it enough and be like, all right, Sydney Sweetie's got double C's, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I saw a screenshot of somebody writing like a React program in I think it was like Expedia or something like that, an airline chatbot. Like, write me a React app. Yeah. No, it's fascinating. Like you mentioned like 2 to 3 years, this will all be normalized. Like how drastically do you think this changes the landscape of startups, businesses in general, the economy? I
mean, the bullish case is that we lose 50% of the workforce, right? So all the managerial like the people who are sandwiched inside a company, right? Especially big companies, they might go, right? Because you're not gonna need 50 layers of like manager analyst types, right? Because one, a lot of the positions below them won't need to exist. They won't need to exist. Because right now, think about it this way, right? So like Tim Cook wakes up in the morning and he goes, and he gets the beautiful report, I'm sure, with all the sales, with this crazy breakdowns, this crazy, beautiful correlations of things. And then, in 3 years from now, he's going to wake up and he's going to just ask a question and the thing is going to answer, so whatever sort of like ideas he has, which is really the value, right? That's the human value, is the creativity of the question. The answering of the question is an implementation problem. So It's an engineering concern. So, you know, we can resolve those with technology and engineering. We can't resolve the human creativity and sort of completely randomness of thought, you know, through engineering. So positions that ask questions, you know, the people who come up with great questions are going to be paid very well. And the people who work through the grind through Excel to come up with answers are going to not have a job. That's sort of like, I think that at least my framework on how to see the near future. And it's going to be gradual, right? Because even though the technology may already be there, adoption is still gradual. So, but I think we're going to be looking at a very different landscape in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, do you think it leads to digital serfdom, or is it an event that sparks the blooming of 10,000 roses?
I know it's kind of like, it's all over the place, right? Because you have the centralized improvements in AI, you have the new startups in AI, you have, you know, the open source AI. Like, it's kind of like coming from all places. Because it's so young, there is a lot of innovation to be had that is like ginormous. And my theory is that all these large companies release their models open source when they hit a wall. Every time they hit a wall, they go like, fuck it. You know, release open source, let the crazy kids sort of improve it. And then we essentially acquire them for hundreds of millions of dollars. And then we improve again. And the cycle continues.
Yeah. It feels like ChatGPT is hitting a wall. Like, just playing around with it recently, it's not as accurate or sophisticated as it was only months ago.
It could be that they're training a new model. Like, and it depends on what, right? Like each type of question needs like a very different type of like answer framework, type of machinery. Let's put it this way. So it really depends. Like, you know, is it web search? Is it like math questions? Is it, you know, very specific questions related to time series data or whatever? Like, these things are very different. I find that like these models really struggle, for example, with time series data. And that really impedes the curiosity that I have with time series data. But, you know, working on it, we'll see if we can do anything internally. But we don't work on model training, right? Like, that's, I mean, a little bit, but it's not what we do on Unleashed. It's more the tooling around it. And essentially, like, you know, building all the code that AI needs in order to understand Nostr live, right? That kind of stuff interests me. The gigabrain need for creating new models and that kind of stuff is like a whole other game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know if you retweeted this or I saw this after seeing your tweet about the deepfakes this morning, but it seems like the way it's going, which seems like is what you've honed in on Unleashed.chat, is like at scale, at maturity, the real winners are going to be the people who just put a UI on these GPU farms and these models and just hook into them, not necessarily the ones that are making the models.
Yeah. So, but the thing that I think a lot of people miss is that, like, there is the 50% of the problem is not the models and it's not the GPUs. It's like the tooling around it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like these AIs don't understand stuff, right? So like you literally have to write Python so that the AI can essentially ask kind of like a question. It's not quite like that, but essentially the AI is using that Python script to go and search like
The
Nostr,
database.
right? Yeah. And then like you have to figure out very clever ways to vectorize that data, very performant ways of doing that, so that the AI, so that it can give it an answer back to the AI, right? And then there is, like, for example, a lot of these companies use multi models. So you have a critical model that reviews the answer of the model before it returns to the user, so you can improve the quality, right, of the answer. And they make all this opaque, so it looks like magic, right? But there is a lot of shit going on in there. There's many models working very differently. And that's not even to get into the multimodal stuff where you have the images, generation, image analysis, videos, and all that other crap.
So it's very modular on the back end.
Yes, it's incredibly modular. And I think it's going to sprout up a lot of different companies too. You're going to have companies that all they specialize on is like vectorizing a certain kind of thing, or companies that, you know, create scripts for, you know, some, like it's just, there's like a huge space out there for people to create companies that are more specialized. But first we need all these big players to hit walls on their modules, right? And then they start sort of outsourcing some of that, and that creates the, like this very healthy sort of collection of companies that contribute to the solution.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of AGI. I don't think it's going to kill us. I think it's just going to make us better.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, like humans could humans maybe be less fat for not having cities? Yes. But, you know, but cities also produce hospitals and produce, you know, like airplanes. And then if you can afford to not live in the city and have the city made things, that's even better, right? It's you know, these things are very relative in that sense, right? You need the things that are not necessarily the best for humans in order to create human things. You know, without Bangladesh, you wouldn't have clothing for, you know, $10.
Yeah, it's very true. Without cheap compute, it's pretty high leverage. You won't have the cool things that we can build today.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating.
Quick break here, freaks. This rip is brought to you by Gradually Then Suddenly, a framework for understanding Bitcoin as money by Parker Lewis. I wrote the foreword to the book. I'm honored to have done so because it's the best 0-to-1 primer if you're looking for a logical explanation of why Bitcoin obsoletes all other money. Buy one for yourself and maybe a few for your friends. Go to thesafehouse.com/gradually. That's thesafehouse.com, safe spelled SAIF, thesafehouse.com/gradually. Use the promo code TFTC for $5 off at checkout. Buy it now, freaks. The price of Bitcoin is going up. You need to understand it. This is the best 0-to-1 primer. Back to the show.
Be curious how you think about this in the context of children. Like, I'm looking at my 2 young boys, like 4 and 2 almost. It's like, fuck, what's the world going to look like for you? What should I teach you now that would actually give you some leverage in the future?
Yeah, I think about this a lot, right? I have like a 4, almost 4 and almost 6, right? You know, we are a no screen family, right? So like they don't watch videos and stuff, you know. I just started doing Star Wars now, where it's like I've been playing the videos, the movie with them on the weekend, just like one movie, like that's all they watched in terms of screens all week. You know, last summer there was no screens whatsoever. I forgot them in the city. I'm pretty brutal with this stuff. I don't want them around screens. But you know, like, how do I give them an edge, right? Like, how do I give them access to like being, you know, it's true, like play, right? It's like play with Lego. And, you know, as soon as I find it's the right time, I don't know what that's going to be. I want them to, you know, maybe learn a language with like an AI model on a phone, right? But it's going to be like a very sort of narrow use of that phone. I don't want them on social media. I don't think it's healthy for humans. And as I can tell for my mental health being exposed to Twitter, you know, or other things like that. I'm kidding. Like, I'm fine. But I also grew up with all this shit. So it didn't like fuck up my brain as a kid, right? Like, as an adult coming into Twitter, I don't think is as harmful as, you know, like say like a kid, like having their brain develop alongside Twitter, right? So I don't want them exposed to these things, and I kind of want them to grow up outside of cities. There were some studies done. It was actually quite interesting on like kids that were above the norm in terms of like intelligence and sort of building capacity and creativity, and there were farm kids sort of like did the best, you know. And it's kind of fascinating, right? Because when you think about farm kids, especially when like, you know, 20 years ago, you know, they were the kids exposed to least amount of technology, least amount of people, least amount of cultures, and yet they were the most creative. And I think it's just like giving kids a space in which they don't have to perform, they don't have to they're just like, they don't have to have anything to do. Like they're literally like, I want them to get bored. and from boredomness, they learn how to be alone with their brains and sort of like, and be capable of like creating things to make themselves less bored, right? A lot of human invention came from people being bored. So anyways, like, I don't know if that's the right answer. That's what I'm running with.
I mean, the theory of gravity was Isaac Newton sitting under a tree and just getting hit with an apple, just sitting there.
There you go.
How did this happen? No,
he was also batshit crazy.
Yeah, we're very
like
similar.
Batshit crazy.
Where we say we try to limit screens like a little bit on the weekends, if that. And it's been fun watching my oldest son play with magnetiles. That's usually what we do.
Those are great.
At the end of the day, like watching what he builds without any instruction. Like, holy shit, I don't think I could even build that.
So like my kids are not used to videos, right, as much. So like I gave them tablets in the airplane because it's either they take down the flight and they will take down the airplane. Like they are feral, right? Or I give them some videos, right? Like that's where I draw the line, right? Like not dying on an airplane. So they can't get it off. Like you can see the addiction because they're not used to seeing it either. Like you can't. It's so hard to peel off of their eyes. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, on the same tip, particularly social media corrupting people's brains. How do you think it's affecting Bitcoin development? And what are your broader thoughts on Bitcoin development? Obviously, we have covenant wars going on, not wars, but a lot of discussion around covenants, ordinals, inscriptions, a big thing. What are your thoughts on? Excuse me. The intersection of social media and Bitcoin development, and just more broadly, do we need covenants? Thoughts on ordinals, all that stuff.
Jesus, talk about a mental health and social media pivot there.
That's tough.
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
let's talk about how you actually break your brain.
As a Bitcoiner, I must have an opinion that is complete and informed on every single topic. So I do have opinions about that. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, it's hard because like I don't want to change Bitcoin. Like I don't want this idea of Bitcoin keeps on changing. But at the same time, I do understand the value of covenants. We already have covenants. We have time lock, right? So those transactions are essentially covenants. They have to wait for a time period before those UTXOs are spendable. So CTV, in my opinion, is the best candidate. It is very, very Greg brain solution. It's very limited, but it opens the door to a lot of interesting design space. And with that, I wanted to upvote because I mean, I don't care too much about the payment channel stuff. That is one of the reasons why people want Covenant, so they can have shared ETXOs for Lightning. That doesn't interest me much. I'm interested in having on-chain vaults because I think that as we evolve in this space and normal people have a lot more wealth in a extremely soluble asset that's portable, the security risk increases also exponentially. So having the actual Bitcoin chain secure not just the ledger entry, but also the velocity and how my vault works is a huge security improvement. It's like orders of magnitude safer for us, right? So you can have a up vault, sort of like have some velocity there. So for example, you create a vault that says, you can only spend max, 1 BTC per month, right? And if you try to send more, you have to use this other kind of signature, say like a multi-sig with many more signatures, or like something else. And if you do notice that starts to move without your permission because you lost like a key for something smaller, you have time to go and unvault that and vault it into a new vault, for example, so that you can prevent your money to be lost or mitigate by having less loss. Like, I mean, it is quite amazing. I did I think about now 3 episodes with Rindell and James. James O'Byrne is the author of Upvault. We did 3 episodes of this in depth on Bitcoin Review. I think people should definitely check that out. I think that once you get more comfortable with CTV and you get more understanding of the gains we get in security, I think it'll be very hard not to want it. But, you know, everybody's sort of like, you know, lost and wasting their life with the dick butt pictures, JPEGs on chain discussion. I think it's idiotic for anyone to sort of waste their time with that. There is nothing you can do against the dick butts. Okay, they're not going away. The people who value them for whatever reasons, the same way people value Ferrari versus, you know, a Porsche or whatever. You know, value is it's something that is in the eye of the beholder. I think is idiotic, but whatever. People to each their own. And you know, and these 2 discussions are unfortunately completely overlapping each other. And that's really not helping the conversation. That's really not helping us move forward or have a discussion towards a yes or a no. Anyways, but then that's just on covenants, right? We haven't even figured out how we're going to activate a new change to Bitcoin, any soft fork to Bitcoin, right? The previous, not Taproot. So before Taproot, you know, it was an existential change to Bitcoin, right? We were fighting the 2x and the big blockers. So everybody sort of scrambled and we did, you know, a flag day. And flag days is how I think it should be. But then with Taproot, we had speedy trial. Speedy trial is kind of like a flag day, but, you know, but you have like, you give the miners a chance to activate before. I don't necessarily like the incentives on that, but, you know, I also don't have a better idea. So, you know, kind of stuck with that. So I think the next soft fork is going to be plagued with the biggest, the discussion is going to be, once everybody settles on what is it that you want to soft fork Bitcoin for, let's say CTV, I think the biggest hurdle is going to be figuring out how to activate it. I don't think people are prepared for that, and I do think we're going to end up with speedy trial again. So
you think so?
Yeah, I think we're going to do speedy trial again. If I had to bet, I'm not a betting man.
I thought consensus was that was a terrible activation route. It was a bad precedent to set. Maybe that's why it was a bad precedent to set, because it's probably the only way to do this.
It's one of those things, man. It's like, you know, who knows? Maybe some galaxy brain comes up with something else. That's my hope. But we can't depend on that, right?
No. Going back to like Upvault and covenants more generally, I think I agree with you. Upvault and CTV seem like the most practical and obvious progressions towards covenants, or not progressions, just enabling more robust covenants on Bitcoin. Because when you hear James explain it, particularly, like, he's wholly convinced that if Upvault is enabled, exchange hacks won't happen again. You just use deduction from there. Like, you'd want each individual on the network to have the same security as an exchange has. Exchanges obviously have the most at risk, and so if you can adopt the security of exchanges as an individual, that'll be very good for you. And going back to how this conversation started, when you consider the $5 wrench attack risks that exist, the way the protocol is set up now, being able to mitigate that, where you just have this social understanding that, hey, I've got my UTXOs in a vault. Like, if you try to $5 wrench me, there's ways in which I can make that very hard for you. And just,
yeah, I mean, you know, I can totally see. I think the world we're going towards, it's very uncomfortable truth to a lot of Bitcoiners, is that, like, you know, there is no UTXOs for everybody, right? That's the first thing. So, like, you know, poor people are not going to have Bitcoin. That's like, it's horrible, but it's true, right? Like, there's just not economically possible. So, if we now sort of think that through, like, when you look at like, an on-chain transaction is going to be equivalent of like a BIS, right? Like you're going to have to settle some serious money to be worth that transaction due to fees. If Bitcoin is winning, we're going to have a lot of fees. And then Lightning is also not for the average person, right? It's going to be for companies to settle between each other or some other layer 2, because layer 2s by definition are redeemable in Bitcoin on chain. So what does that do is it causes these layer 2s to be ultimately bound by Bitcoin's throughput, right? So, they can try to compress things, they can try to do some shared UTXOs. That's kind of what they are, so that, you go less on chain or you essentially, So essentially like you're just having more capacity with those same UTXOs. But then what we need on top of that is like a layer 3, right? And unfortunately, that's where inflation happens, right? And you're gonna have like things like eCash, in my opinion, it's kind of how we solve this. Is, most people are gonna be doing their coffee transactions with eCash redeemable to Bitcoin, right? Like you kind of, it's like, I hate the free banking stuff, but really it's very hard to escape that, because that's where efficiencies lie, right? I mean, inflation is a efficiency tool, right? It's just that it's impossible not to get abused. You will get abused on every single time it's implemented. So I rather it be implemented at the edges than at the center of a financial system, right? So anyway, and this is, why is this important, right? It's because, like, we're a hardware company, right? We make Bitcoin hardware wallets. And if I'm saying that people are not going to use Bitcoin on chain, in 5-10 years from now that much, why I'm still making hardware wallets for 5-10 years from now? Well, because you're still going to need to create signatures for this layer 2s. You're still going to have to create signatures for people who have UTXOs, and you're going to have to create signatures for the tooling that will create the Zcash, right? That'd be the mints, that'd be the clients, and then there is like, how do we go from here to there, right? We still have to exist in this space of time between, like a full digital cash world, where we still need to keep the sats that we have, so we're not robbed until we have better solutions.
Yeah, it's crazy watching it play out in real time. A lot of assumptions I had early on in Bitcoin, which should have been more intuitive, now in retrospect, is like, they're probably naive. Like, I think you may have been the first person who really helped me internalize that not everybody's going to own a UTXO. It's just simply not possible, the way scarce block space works in the world that we live in. But then, you get into the question, what are the trade-offs as you go further up the stack? And eCash makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I was messing around with Mutiny's Fediment implementation the other day, and it works like magic. It just works.
I mean, like, and so like, and you have these two like awesome competing models, right? They kind of try to attack different things. Maybe they won't, I don't know. But you have the Fediment, so the federated eCash solution, and you have the Cashew, which is essentially like a non-federated eCash solution. I like eCash. Sorry, I like Cashew now more just because it's simpler. It's way more deployable. And if the security model is that it can get rugged, then who cares? Might as well be a single actor instead of a federation that rugs you. Although, like, there is, like, I can see how, like, bigger entities are going to want to be a federation with Betty. And anyways, it's all over the place. And I think because it's closer to the edges, you can have a lot more types of solutions coexisting, right? Because it's just more diversity of needs. And, different people, different needs kind of thing. So, but that's where you make different trade-offs, right? Like you get perfect privacy with eCash. You get like a redeemable bear instrument. And it can be rugged at any time. That's one of the trade-offs. And it's not Bitcoin, right? Like it's like the mint is programmatically designed to be pegged back or to be redeemable for Bitcoin, right? So you're trusting that software or that promise. But trust is never going away, right? I mean, you're trusting your computer, you're trusting things to do things, and like you trust your neighbors not to burn down your house. You trust, like your spouse not to run away with your children. It's trust is okay. It's just that trust has to be minimized and properly sort of de-risked where it's possible, right? And I think a lot of the Twitter conversation is too sort of like zero-sum game, too unnuanced around the trust topic, right? It's to say unnuanced Twitter it's almost a understatement.
No, and that's the other thing that's become more internalized on me over the years is like there's a spectrum where extremely trust minimized, you can be a UTXO purist, if you will. Like if you don't have the UTXO, you don't control your own private keys, you don't actually own Bitcoin. The other end is you hold it on Coinbase. Maybe Coinbase within an ETF, maybe the most extreme edge of this. And then there's trade-offs in the middle.
In my view, ETFs are layer 2. Like they are somewhat redeemable on chain, right? Like they have to buy the Bitcoin once they have the cash, right? And they have to sell the Bitcoin when you cash out, right? So and what they're doing, and we're seeing now, in my view, is I'm not smart enough to do the math on this, but I'm sure the boys from Glassnode maybe could. We had this mini pre-bull run rally, right? And the fees didn't spike. Why? Because a lot of retail is going to probably go to an ETF first, especially big money retail. Once they get comfortable with that and they start seeing the benefits of Bitcoin, I think it's very, very high likelihood they will take, part of their exposure to Bitcoin will be in coin. Because, once these ETFs prove to the market that they can hold the Bitcoins securely with custodians, right? But under a much better legal structure, that the ETFs actually own the Bitcoin. Coinbase doesn't own the Bitcoin that's there, right? For the ETFs. I'm not saying, fuck Brian, right? I don't like them, but I'm just discussing the framework. Once these ETFs prove to the market that it's possible for an institution to hold actual Bitcoin safely for years with a custodian or with a co-custodian kind of solution, right? A lot of large entities are just going to go and buy themselves and use the same mechanisms, same solutions that the ETFs did. They're not idiots, right? We see this with other assets. So, again, like there is nuance on why ETFs can be good. Like, it's like, to me, they are essentially a backdoor for Bitcoin into the traditional financial system, right? So they are going to soften the message and the hit that Bitcoin is gonna like hit on traditional markets, because they're gonna make it more compatible until better products are out and until the market understands and values Bitcoin for what it is, which is pristine collateral, right? I mean, you look at the Bitcoin collateralized loans that we have on the market, like they're all shit. But it's not that, Land and Unchained and this company is like are bad. No, they're dealing with cost of capital that they have because the people lending capital to them don't understand that Bitcoin is amazing, right? So, all these things, it's like time in the market. Bitcoin needs more lending in the traditional financial system in order to be appreciated for the amazing thing that it is.
Yeah, I really like Lynn Alden's analogy from a few weeks ago. I forget what show she was on, but likening the ETF to an API into Bitcoin that all these financial institutions can just plug into, begin to recognize the benefits that you just laid out in terms of it being pristine.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, this is an analogy I've been using for years now. It's like Bitcoin gives you two amazing propositions, right? One is anti-debasement, like remedy, right? So like you don't get debased, you have a deflationary sort of money, right? And the other thing is sovereignty, right? If you hold your keys. So, you can choose to get the anti-debasement only part of Bitcoin, right? Number go up only part of Bitcoin by buying ETF, right? You do lose out on Bitcoin's value proposition of like uncensorable money, right? But you still get anti-debasement by holding that ETF, right? I mean, provided that they don't rug you, don't go away or whatever. Again, because you don't have the sovereignty with that Bitcoin. So I think that like separating and explaining these two things to people is a lot more interesting than sort of like saying ETF bad, ETF good. I don't think that sort of takes us anywhere in that discussion.
And this is something that Parker and I fight a lot about. It's because
is Parker there? Say hi to Parker.
He's outside. I'll say hi to him when I hop out of the studio. But no, that's one thing when we're together and trying to orange pill an individual one-on-one, he really focused on 21 million. Number go up. Can't be debased. There's more debt. There's too much debt, not enough dollars. Like Bitcoin is the solution. And I come in and be like, obviously this is true, but the network side of it is very important too. This unstoppable peer-to-peer digital cash, like what you can do over the network of Bitcoin is extremely useful as well. Part of the fundamental value prop.
I think part of the problem too is like where you're coming from in this discussion, right? Like if you're talking to like, some major family office that like, like they just have billions of dollars in assets, right? I mean, they have good lawyers. So like, they're not scared of a bank taking their money as much as we are, right? Because they probably have a better contract with that bank and some hedge on top of it too, right? Some banks will offer like some loan in reverse at like zero interest or whatever if you have certain amount of deposit as your hedge against them failing that transaction, right? There is ways in which like large money behaves in the financial system that is not quite how you do with your bank card in an ATM, right? These people get rugged last. So, their fear of an ETF sort of like rugging them is a lot lower than yours. I'm not saying they're right? Because, we all know that the financial system can go to shit, but, they are going to have a different model of risk than you do. So, I can't fault them for thinking that maybe holding a seed plate is harder than using a custodian that's insured to do something for them, right? But they will get to the plate. Everybody's going to get to the seed plate eventually. It's a matter of time. They will do it personally. They're going to do it for their friends. Eventually everybody understands the Bitcoin value prop and they get a seed plate.
Yeah, it's top of funnel. They're at the top of the funnel with the ETF now. They'll get funneled down. Holding a seed plate, maybe a multi-sig setup, maybe experimenting with eCash. I wanted to go back to eCash too, because that was a really cool thing to see this morning, the Prism team on Nostr. And so sort of the intersection of all these things, whether it's Bitcoin, eCash, and now Nostr, leveraging Nostr as a reputation system for these mints seems, again, talking about trade-offs and rug risk. I think it's a really cool social layer app that is beginning to come to fruition, where you can rate these eCash mints, how they operate.
I mean, and I think we're getting to a point now. It's kind of like that sort of like a tweet that I had about Primo being Venmo for Lightning and Bitcoin and eventually eCash. Humans need coordination and communication in order to transact, right? Like that. You don't send money without exchanging words first, right, about something, agreeing on a price, agreeing on terms, maybe discussing the sale or a discount. You exchange communication, right, before you make a payment. And we only have the internet as you understand, like right now, but now we have Nostr, right, which is a much more censorship resistant and verifiable communication method, right? So it's not just for Twitter application kind of things. You can do markets on it and all sorts of stuff. But the key advancement here is that, unlike a tweet, which is really unverifiable, somebody could be behind my account. On Nostr, nobody can be behind my account because it's a key pair, right? So, the AI can't cheat there. Unless I authorize it to sign it with my key. It's very similar to Bitcoin in that sense. So we're making the message uncensorable and unforgeable, right? Very similar to Bitcoin in that sense. And these two things are sort of intertwined into this method of maybe the first thing we see is a Venmo-like thing for a competitor, right? So that I can go to your Primal profile and send you money. Boom, done, right? But then I think this is going to evolve into way more complex contracts. You're gonna have, you can have calendar payments on your pod. You can stream sats. You can do. You look at the Zap.stream that you and Matt do for RHR. It is remarkable, right? That it's easier to use than Twitch. You just go on the thing as a user, and because you have a Nostr key, you're just immediately capable of participating and sending money. Like, you don't have to ask permission. You don't have to an account and KYC yourself or any of that stuff. You're just immediately participating in the event. And I think that UX on itself is 100 times better than legacy interactions pre-Nostr, pre-Bitcoin. So I really think that as these things start to align and become have better UX, they're going to take over because it's just better. Like, it's not us trying to force freedom on people. They're just better. And that's sort of like how we win, right? It's like a Bitcoin ETF is just better than any other ETF, right? Because it's Bitcoin. So I think the value prop is going to become obvious. Like, the Bitcoin's best marketing is number go up, right? It's not us trying to convince people. So it's the same with Nostr, right? Like, you have these things. And then you're going to have Cashew, right? Which is just better than any other sort of, it's better than Lightning. It just transfers, right? And you can do for very tiny amounts, and there is no fees. So, sure, a mint can charge a fee, but the point is, the technology itself doesn't need fees to exist. And then you're going to have mint swaps, right? So you have the one eCash token to another eCash token, two mints sent to each other, and there's no fees on that, right? Technically, you could even remove Lightning from the equation there now. It's things are really going in an awesome direction. I think it's like you can smell the change now, as opposed to us just battling before for Bitcoin to be recognized.
And I think that's one of the bigger themes of the last 3 years is this recognition that, going back to the Web 3.0 meme of last cycle, which the shitcoiners really pushed. I think that's something that Bitcoiners have really come to grok and understand intuitively and begin building on, is that Web 3.0, in the way it was put forth by shitcoiners, may have some kernel of truth in the intention and of the end result that they want to get at, but you don't need a token, a whole new blockchain, all these other cockanatty tokenomics involved. That you simply just need to combine open source money with these other open source protocols that enable these peer-to-peer interactions, whether it's communication or value transfer.
Kali just announced today his Cashew-based stablecoin.
Yeah.
Right? And this stuff is all permissionless. That's the thing. See, we've federated eCash. You're going to have bigger entities using, so they're going to need to ask permission, right? Or they're going to get shut down and go to jail. But when you're talking about the simplicity of Cashew, and you just go and you press a button and now you have a mint, like, governments are not going to go put people in jail in North America because somebody has a mint with $100 in it, right? I mean, realistically speaking, right? They may pick a couple guys to make an example, but still, like, nothing's going to happen to you if you have $100 mint, right? Now, imagine 300 million people, 500 million people, each with $100 mint, right? Transacting with each other, right? Like, it's like, boom. And, this is only possible because of Bitcoin, right? Because you still need a means of store of value, right? Because you're not going to store your value in Cashew, right? Because that's ruggable. So that's great for in-transit money. But because you have this ultimate settlement system, right? Like, that's Bitcoin, you can do all these crazy things at the edges, right? Where it's uncapturable.
Yeah.
And you can use Nostr for the coordination of all this stuff. It's crazy.
No, then you get to like the network side of things. Like, even if the government did want to go door to door and unplug all of this, I mean, just the nature of how you create a private public key pair on Nostr and how these mints are spun up, like, you can do it in a way where it's very hard to.
I mean, Marty, how's the war of drugs going?
Not so great. They're legalizing them.
No, seriously, it's like, it's so hopeless, right? Like, you can't fight the edges as a centralized entity, right? All you can do is compete with the edges, right? So they could try to launch a much better CBDC and whatever to try to compete with it. But at the end of the day, if you can't compete, you're going to lose because you can't fight the edges. It's just, that's the value. It's the perfect sort of, like, we're arriving, like, the stars are starting to align for all the right technology that you need to deploy Bitcoin or a Bitcoin sort of claim to every person in the planet.
Having been in this for a while, are you surprised with how quickly things are accelerating right now? Or did you expect the order of operations to go somewhat like this?
I don't know, man. I've been in Bitcoin for a minute or two. And it's always slower than you want and faster than you expect, right? It never is the way you expect to be. It's just, we're just here for the ride. We're trying to understand as it goes and trying to, like, build the products that we need to exist in this paradigm shift. Predictions in the space are too hard because all it takes is, like, some crazy person who's brilliant to invent, something called nuts, right? And then you have another major leap in the financial technology, right? It's like, it is pretty crazy how, because the design space is so big, and we have Bitcoin as this sort of like a central settlement system, we're always just like a minute away from somebody creating something that's completely crazy, amazing, new, that solves many problems, because the hardest problem has been solved, which is the settlement store of value, right? So now it really is just up to us to come up with the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But again, like, as a person who lives and breathes this and being steeped into the Bitcoin space, it's very easy to disregard and ignore inertia, right? And fiat has inertia, right? It has, 100 years now of, like, dollar-like things, fiat things. And that's a lot of inertia. It's 8 billion people using it. They have a lot of Lindy, and it's not in their interest to, like, sink the ship, right? It's in the interest of everybody to profit with a change of ship, and as legacy brilliant legacy people sort of start to realize that there is the alternative to go towards and profit with, then the incentives align and we see the shift, as opposed to just waiting for everything to implode. I don't like the implosion sort of path. I think that's just counterproductive. There's a lot of suffering, and I don't want that world for my kids. I rather see a world in which, we shift and people find a way of like producing value and finding profit, changing to a new system.
Yes. Are you saying we don't need a mandibles world to actually succeed?
Yes. I really don't think that we're going to go there. I seriously don't. Like, inertia does not take us there. You can see some of this, right? Like, you look at like when a hurricane destroys a civilized place, right? How fast things get rebuilt. When we have a financial crisis, how fast the assholes find a way to steal, but also to keep the thing going, right? Like, because listen, it is in their interest to not have a civil war, right? Like, at the end of the day, they live there too. So, as much as these pieces of shit take a little too much from the solution, they do find a way for the system to keep on going and slowly shift somewhere else. It's just that they ran out of ideas. but like, eventually they'll get to Bitcoin, and maybe ETFs are one way, for example, for people to not lose their retirement savings on government bonds, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, you just the headline I read right before we started recording was like, apparently Japan, one of their largest pensions, it's got trillions of dollars in it. They're seriously considering allocating to Bitcoin to save a desperate pension system. So
historically, because Japan is like, just printing for so long, they don't have, like, there is no way for the Japanese to find yield in Japan, right, for their fiat. So you can't work your fiat in Japan. So what they do, they buy treasuries, American treasuries. They buy, European bonds. They buy all kinds of other crap, right? SoftBank invests on FTX and Tesla, right? And OpenAI and everything else, right? Because there is no yield. So, and Japan just announced that they're going to finally, for the first time in, 20 years, increase interest rates by like, I don't know, like, I think it's like 1 basis point or something, 10 basis point. I don't know. It was little. It's totally a token of appreciation, and literally. And people are freaking out, right? Because funds borrow in yen and then go gamble with the money, right? And like, now that they're gonna change the dynamics of this a little bit. They're signaling that they will. Nobody knows where the shit's going to go. But essentially, like, the Japanese need a place to park money that produces yield, right? Because fiat, gets the base, so you need to produce the yield. And maybe the Bitcoin ETFs is something, right? Like you were saying, that maybe they're going to do it. The Quebec pension fund, one of them, invested in FTX, big position. They didn't quite go well. But eventually, you're going to see, this pension funds allocating to Bitcoin, right? Because they're not going to be able to avoid it, because MicroStrategy is going to be on a future 500 company, right? And half of the indices that are investable, are allocations of that. So they might just get some Bitcoin even if they don't want to. Financial markets are weird, and they're going to get very weird.
Yeah. No, we saw it here in the States too. The state of Arizona. I think the state treasury wrote a letter to their legislator like, hey, we really want to get our pensions into Bitcoin. So we're writing this letter to express our intent to enable the pension system within Arizona to allocate to these ETFs. It's happening.
I mean, listen, BlackRock being one of the worst actors on the planet, they wouldn't get into it if they didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
And they're coming for the lion's share of it too.
They already have more than MicroStrategy.
Right?
Is that I think it's BlackRock alone. It's IBIT. It's not even.
But I think, isn't it dollar amount versus actual Bitcoin amount?
I think it's, what does it matter?
Market cap, it does, because I think until the FASB change happens, I don't think MicroStrategy can book the fair market value of Bitcoin as their market cap. So
I think it's number of Bitcoin. I think they surpassed the number of Bitcoin held.
If only there was a website you could find that out, huh? Let's see. I'm curious now. So MicroStrategy is at how much Bitcoin they have?
Over 210,000.
214,000.
Yeah.
And ETFs, hang on, ETFs. What's the name is iShare, right?
I bet.
237. You are correct, sir. They are 20,000 Bitcoin over.
That happened rapidly.
And the source of this is solid. Is BitcoinTreasuries.net.
I mean, it's a .net. It's not the best URL, but yeah, at BitcoinTreasuries.net, great site to go check all this out. How much do you think the ETFs get when all is said and done? I mean, they're on pace to have over 1 million pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think they're going to start to struggle when they get to like 20% of the Bitcoin total, because price increases as they get closer to their 20%, right? And that Bitcoin is going to become very, very pricey. It's going to become so absurd that the amount of like fiat wealth they're going to need in order to buy that Bitcoin is going to be so high that like we start to spiral, into hyper Bitcoinization here. It could get dicey. I mean, especially if like, this time doesn't feel like many large coin holders are selling off to buy nice things yet. The market seems super shallow. Spot market super shallow for an asset this size. I think people are going to have a rude awakening in terms of like, how much is going to cost to take a Bitcoin off of a Bitcoiner.
Like, are you in the Samson Mal camp? Do you think we could hit $1 million by the end of next year?
Yeah, I mean, like it's all within the realm of possibilities. It could also be like we could go down to $30,000, or it could be $1 million. It could be $2 million. Why be a bear?
Why be a bear?
No, really. Like, we're dealing with exponential systems here, right? Like, it's like stuff could rally and get completely out of control, right? Like, if we have like a world craze for it, totally possible. Like, because it was very local. Right, most of the rallies are very local. It's like it's like a group of people. It hits mainstream like a little bit, but it's not like every day on the news. Oh my God, everybody's putting all their savings into Bitcoin, right? Like, and then like banks freaking out and buying it, and every fucking hedge fund buying it, and like things could get completely crazy. Like, not impossible.
Yeah. I'm ready. Bring it. Bring it.
It's going to be fun regardless. 30,000 Bitcoin will also be a lot of fun too. Great stocking.
Great stocking opportunity.
It's like a win-win. I mean, it's a weird space to be in. It's like you love either side. It's like, I don't think that ever happened before. We only have this because it's a deflationary fixed supply system. Otherwise we would be screaming that, the price, please only up.
Yeah, but it's going to destroy the economy. You can't have an economy run on a currency with a fixed supply. Who will spend?
Yeah.
People will hoard. Things will get
I think fasting is going to become more common because nobody's going to eat anymore at all forever, right? And also people are just going to learn how to build cave houses. So because you're not going to need shelter anymore. And we're not going to have the internet anymore, and we're not going to have airport. We're definitely going to stop traveling. The green people should love Bitcoin, because we're going to just stop the economy.
Yeah. We're going to hoard all of our Bitcoin, soak up a little bit of energy, and just not go spend. No more plastics, nothing. We should, we are mammals. We should just be, why are we even wearing clothes? We should just all be walking around naked unless it's cold out.
I mean, living in the tropics does like help some of that. You can at least just be in shorts all day, no shoes. But what I'm really disappointed at is the fact that we did not fulfill the promise. Bitcoin is not using the world's energy as prophetized by I don't know which newspaper it was out today. By 2020, we should have been using all the energy on the planet. And we're still not boiling the oceans too. I mean, there is places on Earth that the ocean is very cold, and I'm very disappointed that is not a bathtub.
Yeah, people in California should not have to wear wetsuits to go surfing. You should be able to bareback
It should
it.
be for global warming, man. You know, like seriously, especially Canadians.
Bring back the megafauna. That's what I want to see.
That's right.
More oxygen. It's counterintuitive. It's like more CO2. It produces more oxygen. You get bigger plants. Warmer climate. I like the tropics, you know?
Yes. I mean, on the plus side, you know, all the people who are against human flourishment, they don't make babies. So this is going to resolve itself in 50 years. We're going to, Bitcoin, you know, no more people who don't like humans, you know, they're really converging.
It's a beautiful thing.
It really is.
Go make babies.
How can you not be optimist?
Yeah. On that note, what are you most excited for? Obviously, we just said the price of Bitcoin is going to $2 million. Why be bearish?
That does not faze me anymore. Like, honestly, that is not part of my scope of things I care. I think you know, like, you know, the stuff we're working on, I just can't fucking wait to ship stuff. It's like, you know, it's like the grind of hardware and ramping production. You know, it can't make enough devices. You know, there is too many new Bitcoiners who cannot clearly hold their seeds buying all these devices. It's just amazing to me. Like my sales numbers do not agree with this trend that it's too hard to self-custody Bitcoin. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think the world is swinging a little bit politically, which helps. You know.
Are we gonna get Trudeau out?
Oh yeah, no. I mean that guy is just done. I mean, you never say never, right? I mean, maybe they come up with another pandemic or something, and you know the guy finds a way of sticking around. He's a parasite, like a true parasite. He's governing with a minority government in a way that's very unheard of for Canada. But yeah, that parasite's going to be out soon. You know, it's still like, you know, a country of kind of like commie-leaning people, so it's not like it's going to become like, you know, guns and cheeseburgers, you know, the next day. You know, the America, exactly. But I think it's going to trend towards something better.
Should we come annex Alberta at least?
Alberta doesn't have water access or borders, so it's kind of a problem.
A lot of oil, though.
Canada is the second largest reserve of oil on the planet. It could be, I keep on saying to this, like, it's the best country to be a commie. They could just start drilling like Norway does and pay for all the commie shit that they want. They can offer like in-home sex transition surgeries for free with oil money. Like, anyone, you press a button, they come to your house and they chop your penis.
Or they kill you.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, this shit, like, it's so out of control.
Taking the MAID program to a whole new level.
No, these people really, it's evil, man. Like, it's like, it's actually, I think it's you who has that saying, like, demons. Yeah. Like, these people are just like, they way cross the line into just evil. Dude, it is easier to buy heroin legally in Canada than it is to buy raw milk.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
Right, like, think about that for a second, okay? And it's not an exaggeration. It's actually like a true statement. I've been trying to buy. You have to essentially beg some farmer to give it to you, and maybe he'll do it because they're scared to death of going to jail. But heroin is available now everywhere.
What do you need to do to get heroin?
You just walk into a clinic and you say, "Give me this. That's what I like," and then they'll give you something.
Yeah, truly demonic.
No, like, they're spending millions of dollars branding the syringes with the name of the city now. It's amazing. Like, dude, it's a bizarre world.
It is.
The thing, like that, like they're making like legal for people with mental health issues to kill themselves. Like, dude, the person is already suicidal. If you ask them if they want to kill themselves, of course they're gonna say yes. Like, well, it's not that complicated.
Like 5% of deaths in Canada were part of the MAID program. last year.
No, they're going to ramp it up. You know, and then like, you know, like you bankrupt the country, you know, you fuck up the culture, you make into a commie shithole, all in 10 years, by the way. And then you offer people suicide. You don't no, but what's amazing to me is that we also have the fastest immigration policy on the planet, right? I'm fully pro-immigration, especially in a country that doesn't make babies. And the immigrants are a lot more based than the locals, so it helps. But the problem is, like, there is not enough infrastructure, especially in a commie place, right? So the country is like adding 1 million people a year. You know, being a country that only has, you know, it was
30 million,
37 million people just like 10 years ago, and then we're 41 million people, or targeted at 41 million people. Like, dude, that's a lot of people.
It's 10% growth.
It's insane. You know, there is no infrastructure that will handle that, even in a place that's not commie, right? You can't build that fast, especially, you know, with all the fucking like retarded regulations on everything.
I saw a clip this morning of 200 people in line at a liquor store to get a job.
Yeah, no, that's everywhere. But, you know, it's the same in America too. Like, you know, America has pockets of freedom, but at the end of the day, I always say, right, like, it's like why real estate is a shitcoin and you don't own it. Well, stop paying taxes on it and wait to see how long it takes for them to show to you how much is not yours. You know, it's, yeah, and any densely populated place is going to be more complicated too, right?
Yeah, but I do agree with you. I do think the pendulum is swinging. I think bizarre world has hit such a point where people who were part of the silent majority and were just like, I'm just going to go about my life. Like, they are literally not able to avoid it anymore. They're confronted with it in their everyday lives. And then that's silent majority.
I mean, you know, when we had, you know, money printed that made everybody rich, between quotes, right, for you know, for a couple of years during COVID, everybody felt rich, right? Everybody was buying all kinds of shit. I mean, you know, it was Amazon boxes like to the brim during COVID. You know, it's very easy to vote for all this idiocy, right? When like, you know, you essentially feel like, you know, money is infinite. But once everybody is starting to get now kicked in the balls because, you know, their mortgages are like 3 times what they used to pay per month, right? So they're all broke. In Canada, mortgages reopen every 5 years, right? Because they don't have a
30-year fix.
Yeah, I know, but it's insane to have a 30-year fix, right? Math doesn't work in 30 years, but it's amazing. Good for you guys. Very jealous. So anyway, so like, you know, people are broke. When people are confronted with economic reality, they start making better economic decisions, right? And all of a sudden, you know, maybe we shouldn't have free sex surgeries for kids, you know, because the healthcare is socialized, right? So even if you believe that that's supposed to happen, which you're a monster, you still maybe don't want to share that versus a heart surgery, right? People start making these economic calculations with a little bit more sanity, and starts to put things in a better direction, right?
Yeah, because opportunity cost is more prevalent and in your face. So it's like, do I want to cut off this 16-year-old's boobs or help somebody get a heart surgery?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's not a very complicated, you know, calculation now. For most people. For some people, it's still a struggle, but it's amazing. Like,
it's crazy that we're even having this conversation.
It is pretty insane.
I went to a doctor's appointment this morning. Dermatologist, pale-skinned Irishman here. Had to get my skin checked. Spent a lot of time in the sun during the summers, and melanoma runs in my family, so I had to go get skin checks once or twice a year. Did that this morning. I'm filling out.
Stop using sunscreen.
No, I don't. I use the SPF, the long shirts, and the hat. The filling out the form, new doctor. It's literally like, what's your gender? And I checked male. I'm like, all right, what's next here? It's like, what are your pronouns? I was like, what the fuck? I I just checked.
It's
this box.
everywhere.
It's like, what's your preferred? I was like, I just did not. I was like, left it blank. I was like, I'm not participating.
Dude, in Canada, you can get a passport that says X for gender.
What is X? Zero?
No. I mean, like, listen, that's cool and all. I don't give a shit. Let's remove passports altogether. That would be the correct move. But yeah, like, no. But the problem that I have is, if people want to be retarded, whatever. Like, it's not my problem. But like, it's the cost. Like every time they want to change a government form, costs millions of dollars, right? Like, and this shit compounds. It's on everything.
Yeah. Can't even go to the dermatologist without them asking for your preferred pronouns.
I mean, like, and it's like if I ask my 2-year-old, like my 3-year-old, what is he today? He's gonna probably say like a lion, or like do I take him for like a lion surgery?
My 4-year-old's in a big good guy versus bad guy stage, so I never know. I show up from work, and I find out if he wants to be a good guy or a bad guy. He's like, I'm the bad guy today, you're the good guy. And then he hands me a sword and we fight.
It's so funny. My kids are really into Darth Vader. They don't like Luke.
Boss.
Yeah, no, they're like, because they asked Daddy, do you want to be a Jedi, or do you want to be a Sith Lord, or whatever? I'm like, I am a Mandalorian. I don't take sides in this battle. I'm here, mercenary. Okay, like I don't want to participate. And it's like I just keep on banging that message. Like I don't want to take part in this fight. It's their problem.
Yeah, red team versus blue team. I don't participate in that. No. I'm a hitman.
That's right.
I don't have allegiances.
Oh man, that's right. Oh man, it's like who's the terrorist? It's whoever you ask the other side, right?
Yeah. Government, maybe the largest terrorist organization humanity's ever seen.
It is. I mean, they killed more people than anybody else.
Yeah.
That's
we're gonna win though. We're gonna win. We're winning.
We are winning.
You get pissed at me when I say we're going to win. Why we are winning over we're going to win?
Because we're already winning. Like, look at this timeline. It's insane. It really is. Like, I mean, it totally is insane. Like, we had a dude saying buy Bitcoin with a sign and like a Fed, like a Congress hearing. Like, we're already there, dude. It's like, you can't kill an idea, right? And the idea is spreading. And, like, Bitcoin is making everybody better.
It is.
Life is better, like quantitatively and qualitatively better.
And they don't realize it yet. They're playing our game now. They think we're in there with them. They're in here with us.
They are on our meme sphere now. Like, look at these morons trying to meme against us. It's hilarious. Like, it is so funny. Like, that meme, the left can't meme.
Yeah.
But it's the left or the right. It doesn't matter. Like, government people, like, commies of left or right, they can't meme.
Yeah, I saw a screenshot from 4chan today. It was probably from years ago, but they were like, the Anon on 4chan was claiming to be part of one of the government agencies. He was like, keep it up. They're literally having meetings where they're trying to create memes that turn Pepe the Frog gay. To make it so you guys don't want to deal with them.
It really is amazing. Did you see that one of the guy who made the QAnon documentary, he had to lie about most things because there wasn't evidence because it's a meme.
I did not see that.
QAnon. There's like there was a guy. I think it might have been even Canadian documentary about QAnon. The guy really some lefty crazy person went after them kind of thing. Yeah, I'm going to expose QAnon, right? And then it turned out all the evidence was manufactured.
Against QAnon? Or he like dug deep and was like, oh, wait, this is just a big joke?
He was against QAnon, right? And then, but he wanted to expose QAnon for this evil thing, right? And then he had to manufacture the evidence that they even exist. It's amazing.
Yeah, they can't do it. And it frustrates them, which makes me happy.
It really does. I think that's the biggest, that's why it's like flare-ups of anger and all this shit is because like they can't fight physics, right? Like you can't argue with a rock. Like
No, and I think that's the most exciting thing about this is I think Bitcoiners particularly, but more people are beginning to recognize this. Like the biggest or the best, most effective way to defeat these centralizing forces in our life is to literally ridicule them to death.
Yes.
And they get
Just
so
start
pissed
laughing.
off by that. And like, it actually is approachable to people who don't understand the problem. You make a joke about it and you're like, oh, this is pretty funny and fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, this space is like, remember the campaign that Greenpeace had changed the code,
Yes.
right? It's like, okay,
Change the code. Yeah, do it.
Okay, do it, please, do it, right? Like, they don't understand that, like, you can't change everybody else's code if you change the code.
No, and if they would,
this is what I'm saying about arguing with a rock, right? Like, there is nothing you can do.
and all they had to do was go watch Michael Goldstein's 2019 BitBlock Boom presentation of meme warfare. And they would have recognized that they put that out there. All we're going to do is accept and project. Yes, you can change the code. Go do it, please.
Yes, it's so good. That, by the way, if people haven't not seen, that's probably one of the best presentations in Bitcoin like ever. And it became a meme itself too.
Before it was even released.
Yeah, there was like a whole drum about how that.
Brian Bishop was transcribing it and putting it on his website.
Yes.
And people were reading it like an hour after he gave the presentation without it being released, taking it out of context.
Yes, it was. The meme precedes itself. Like it can't. It's amazing. It really is the best timeline, man. We live in the best timeline.
Yeah, and this will be the second episode in a row, which we ended on this phrase: "Don't let your memes be dreams." We can actualize our memes into reality. It's happening.
Meme into existence.
Yes, keep doing it. You keep meming. Self-custody, better practices, good approaches to Bitcoin and life into the world. You're doing an incredible job. Again, don't want to blow smoke up your ass, but playing around with the Q the last couple of weeks, it is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet that I've ever interacted with. Just for me, but the UX, the battery pack, NFC, the intuitive setup process, it was an incredible experience.
I really appreciate it, man. That was a product of like us going full autistic. You know, yeah. what is the hardware wallet that a Bitcoiner really wants? And we sort of, it looks like that.
Yeah, and you have the password manager inside. Like, it's you can tell how much time and effort went into it. And if you're out there listening, you should get one and use it, because again, most high quality hardware wallet I've used. Most intuitive too.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Where should we send the freaks?
Oh boy. You know, yeah, freaks, just go check out the Q. Go check out the Mark IV. It's not going anywhere. Go check out Tap Signer if you want to play with stuff. I mean, there's a million things we make.
You should have been at the takeover because you would have been like a kid in the candy shop. We demoed the Sats card to somebody who was here. And the way we demoed it is we gave him a Sats card, a 1031 Sats card. He clicked it on the back of his phone, pulled out the address, and then I pulled out my Tap Signer and had a wallet on Unchuck connected to my Tap Signer, and I signed and broadcast a transaction from Nunchuck using Tap Signer to his Sats card. His mind was blown.
Boom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah, man, you know, it's we're going to play. We're going to figure out more things. We're going to make it as easy as possible and as secure as possible. Security before anything else. You know, it's I was actually talking to somebody about this. It's like, what's the most important thing? Not losing the sats you already have. That's more important than being easy, being pretty, being anything, right? And then make it as easy as possible is the second thing, right? So we're working on it, and you know, we take the feedback very seriously, and you know, hopefully nothing looks like what we have now in 5 years from now. You know, it's just perfect.
Yeah. And you've got a good brand. I want to buy all the products as they come out. Got one of these right here. That's the one thing. It's a sticky brand. it's very easy to keep buying the products.
Well, you gotta find the funds to develop more things, right? This is our hobby. This is what we love to do. So it's like it's very self-fulfilling.
Well, keep doing it. Keep fulfilling yourself. Get your ass down to Austin soon.
I do want to go. It's been a while.
It's gonna be a good spring here. Vibes are high. Parker Lewis has some questions to ask you in person. So
sounds good.
All right.
Good stuff.
Keep crushing it. Peace and love, freaks.